My name is J. Kyle Moyer, and today I'm speaking with Dr. Christopher Wheeler, PhD, President of StemVax Therapeutics, about the immunotherapy technology TLR81. Dr. Wheeler is leading the scientific team through the necessary steps to bring TLR81 to market through parent company NovAccess Global. The technology just received Orphan Drug designation from the FDA in October of this year. NovAccess Global is a public biotech company with the stock symbol XSNX. I am joined also by NovAccess Global CEO, Dr. Dwayne Irvin, PhD. Dr. Wheeler, thank you for joining today to discuss this revolutionary technology.
Great to be here and good to see you, J. Kyle and Dwayne.
And Dr. Irvin, thank you for joining as well.
Good to see you too, J. Kyle, and good to see you as well, Chris.
Before we begin, I think it's important to mention that TLR81 is essentially an immunotherapy with immune boosters, which clinical studies show may improve outcomes for patients with malignant brain tumors and can be paired with other therapeutic approaches, in turn improving the patient experience. Dr. Wheeler, would you please provide us with a brief background of this technology?
Sure, happy to. It started way back with Ralph Steinman, who discovered dendritic cells in the early 70s. And these are the primary immune boosters and primary cellular component of the vaccines. In the 1990s, other researchers, as well as Ralph Steinman, discovered how to pulse the dendritic cells with tumor proteins, pieces of tumor proteins, and design these new vaccines for cancer patients. For brain tumors, our group, led out of Cedars-Sinai by Dr. Keith Black, partnered with Dr. Linda Liao when he was at UCLA to design a dendritic cell vaccine for brain tumors for the first time. And that was published for a single patient, I think, in 2000. Then Dr. Black moved to Cedars-Sinai. I joined him as he moved. I came 2 weeks after he arrived, and I was brought on board to start the vaccine program. We published our first multi-patient trial in 2001, and then several trials thereafter from 2001 up to the present day.
Thank you for that. When I was doing my homework here in preparation for this conversation, I came across an article from cedarsinai.org that was published August 14th, 2012, and the headline was, "Vaccine Targets Malignant Brain Cancer Antigens, Significantly Lengthens Survival." And the leading sentence, an excerpt from that article, "An experimental immune-based therapy more than doubled median survival of patients diagnosed with the most aggressive malignant brain tumor." I'm sure that achievement was encouraging, to say the least, especially considering it's focused on adult brain cancer with a median survival of 15 months and no available immunotherapy for patients presently. How has the technology or path to marketability evolved since that article was published?
So that was a very encouraging finding. And I think what we found was not just increase in median survival to about 38 months, but an increase in 5-year survivals to almost 20%, which was, that just wasn't seen with any other therapy. So how the technology has evolved is a couple ways. So that was kind of generation 1 technology. And in my lab and in Dwayne's lab at the time, we were working on ways to improve the technology to come up with new generations. Now, since then, there was a generation 2, which essentially just provided more doses of the vaccine and a few other procedural changes. That didn't really result in as impressive as results as we saw with that first generation. And so Dwayne in particular started developing the 3rd generation, which he showed in animals, really extended the survival beyond what we were getting with generation 1. So he was really pushing that through in his lab. I was looking at other things in my lab that were related but distinct from what Dwayne came up with.
Thank you. When you partnered with Dr. Dwayne Irvin to create StemVax Therapeutics, a company wholly focused on the TLR81 technology, Did you foresee the move to taking the company public?
Well, let me just back you up a little and say that there was always an entrepreneurial bent to the team at Cedars-Sinai. We always had our eyes out for potentially marketable developments, and that was even before I came to Cedars when I was talking to what would become our department head at Cedars, Keith Black. We always had in mind, the development of companies. So that was always a part of it. There were other investigators that did form companies and brought them to market. So that was always part of the culture. I think, foreseeing that the dendritic cells would be formed into a company, yes and no. We had efforts that patented earlier versions of the dendritic cells that we thought might be formed into a company. But I think Dwayne's was really the best chance to get a viable company. I think it was really bold and shrewd of him to take it public so soon, especially. But I think, as I said, that was a great move and increased our ability to gain funds and really be out there in the public eye.
And do you feel like the company is ahead of the curve on that level with what you just mentioned, bringing the company to a public offering prior to IND?
I think so. I think Dwayne could probably speak better to this. But yeah, I mean, just knowing the few immunotherapy companies involved in brain tumors, I would say we're ahead of the curve.
Well, that's great. So has the progress that you've made since joining with NovAccess Global been in line with your expectations?
I think in some ways it's far exceeded my expectations. I think especially in this past year with us uplisting from the pink list stocks and getting orphan drug status, not only so quickly, but also in an expanded way. We asked for 2 indications, specific malignant brain tumors, and they granted it for all malignant brain tumors. So that was beyond what we expected. And so in many ways, yeah, I think we're ahead of the curve there as well.
That's a huge win. Certainly, orphan drug designation is a big deal for a technology addressing an unmet need like malignant brain cancer. Would you please give us an understanding of its impact and how it will benefit the company specifically?
Sure. The impact is indeed huge. So the first thing I'd say is our prescription drug user fee is waived. That's as of 2022 and going into 2023, that's over $3 million, savings of over $3 million right off the bat. So that's as we get FDA approval, we need to pay that. Beyond that, there's a 7-year marketing exclusivity of orphan drug designated products. That's obviously a market advantage. There are substantial federal tax credits for clinical trials conducted in the U.S., and those tax credits can be applied retroactively to a previous year or up to 20 years in the future to future tax expenses. What was even surprising to us is that orphan drug status qualifies us to apply for federal research grants through the Office of Orphan Drug Product Development, and that's a big boon because that's non-diluted funding. So obviously very attractive to a small biotech. And then we're also eligible to receive regulatory assistance and guidance from FDA in the design of the drug development plan. So lots of huge benefits to orphan drug status.
That's fantastic. And that does sound like so many benefits that expanding the team is going to be necessary in order to make all of those come to fruition, which is obviously the dream. And that leads me to my question for Dr. Irvin. How has the executive team embraced this new advantage in terms of strategy, and how do you anticipate that it's going to impact short and long-term ambitions for the company?
We were super excited about the designation, the FDA designation of the orphan drug, for all of the benefits that Dr. Wheeler just described. I'm particularly excited about the opportunity to have access to non-dilutive funding through the Office for Orphan Drug Designation, and also the guidance that we have the opportunity to receive from them as we move forward after presumed FDA approval for trials, if we obtain that. So we're super excited. It helps us look forward to obtaining funding that's non-dilutive and that can promote the technology directly as we try to expedite bringing this technology to market. So we're really excited about it and hope that we can continue to take advantage of the opportunities it provides.
Thank you for that. The exclusivity that goes out 7 years, is that specific to the technology as a singular therapy, or does that also apply when paired with other therapies in a complementary way?
I think it probably applies to both. It depends on how the patent protection is written. But I believe it applies to both. Again, it would depend on the actual protections in place.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us and for speaking about TLR 81 and the recent orphan drug designation. That's huge. And I look forward to speaking with you again in the future. Thank you, Dr. Wheeler, and thank you, Dr. Irvin.
Thank you very much, Jay Kyle. I just want to add that there is a significant unmet need for these glioblastoma patients and patients with other malignant brain tumors. And we're here to work aggressively to see if we can provide an option for them that exists beyond what is existing today. So thank you for your time, and Dr. Wheeler, thank you for leading this venture from the clinical perspective.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And I would just piggyback on what Dwayne said. That's what we're all here for. That's what we're all about, is providing these new treatments for patients in fairly dire need. So that drives us all.
Thank you so much. It really is. It's a noble pursuit, and it's a great pleasure to be able to speak with you today about it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.